Number 1. Ridge driving. One of the worst experiences that a person could have in their lifetime happened when I was only 17 years old. When I was 16 and I got my license, I got a car that I could drive to and from school and home. I'd been involved in a lot of extracurricular activities, and having my own vehicle made it easier on the family, since my activities normally kept me at school long after the late buses had run. My family lived out on the ridge, and it was a very long rural drive to get there. Having my own car just made everything so much easier. I was involved with the drama club at school. As we got closer and closer to opening night, we would be staying later and later into the evening. This was also taking place in the fall, so the sun had long since set when it was finally time for me to go home. I don't recall how late it was when I was driving home, but even the roads in town were deserted, so the rural roads were going to be completely abandoned. This didn't bug me at all because I didn't mind driving in the dark. I wasn't afraid of the dark and I had very good vision, so I never had any troubles. I had been on the ridge for a while, but was still maybe 20 minutes from my home. That was when I noticed something on the side of the road up ahead. At first I only saw one car pulled off over on the left side of the road. Within moments, however, I noticed that there was a person standing outside of the car. This person immediately looked up at me when my lights hit them. Quickly, they rushed away. It was then that I noticed that there was another car with its lights turned on. Everything happened so fast, it's hard to explain how it happened. The car came straight at me, as if it was trying to hit me. Fortunately, I was able to pull off the side of the road and not get hit by the car. I quickly made it back on the road. I thought that would be it, but I was really wrong. I watched in the rearview mirror as the aggressive car turned around. It then began driving at me, but very, very fast. Of course, I was scared, and I reacted like anyone else would in the situation. I hit on the gas real hard. I began driving as fast as I could safely. The car came close to hitting me just once, and then I afterward did my best to stay ahead of them. The thing was, there were a lot of twists and turns on that road as you drove along the hills. For someone not used to it, even driving at a regular speed was dangerous. A driver would often move into the other side of the road, and that made a head-on collision very likely. So most folk would have driven pretty slowly and carefully on the road. I didn't worry about it. I had been driving faster on those roads ever since I began driving, so I was taking the turns without anything to worry about. I was hoping that the guy chasing me would give up or accidentally drive off the side of the road. He was having a very difficult time keeping up with me, but he wasn't giving up. The guy kept on coming, and it was only due to the road that he hadn't been able to hit me again. Being able to outrun the guy didn't make the experience any less terrifying. I was still scared to death and had no idea what was going to happen to me. I finally got up to the entrance to my driveway. I was worried at first that if I just drove up, the man would slam into me or try to get me when I got out of the car. I wasn't sure what to do, but as I turned in, I realized I only had one choice. The driveway was rather long. The moment that I turned into it, I began pounding on the horn of my car. My dad would be in the living room watching television after work. There was no doubt of that. I just hoped the honking would scare him enough to get up and to grab his gun. His gun rack hung in the living room. The pursuing car indeed pulled into the driveway. It took only a few moments for the porch light to come on, As I pulled up, my dad came out onto the porch, and he noticed my car and my being pursued. I was afraid the car behind me was going to ram me, but that didn't seem to be his intent. He slowed down on the driveway, stopping about halfway down. The car door opened. My dad shot in the direction of the car. He claimed to his dying day that he missed on purpose, but I think he was trying to hit the car. Quickly, the car door slammed. Then the car began pulling out in reverse. My dad told me to remain in the car, and he actually went after the car departing. The guy turned out in the driveway and drove off. After calling the police, it took them a long time to get out by us. When I explained what happened, they told me that they had found the car that I had mentioned. Inside it was the body of a young man who'd been shot several times in the chest. He was dead. The theory was that I had come across the man while he was committing the murder. He must have panicked and tried to take me out too. A man was arrested for this, but I wasn't much help in the case. I hadn't really seen him well enough to identify anyone. The man who was arrested, however, was convicted and went to prison for life without parole. Number 2. Hunting. When I was 13 years old, I wasn't really into doing a lot of stuff that the other boys I knew, including my family, were into doing. I was never into hunting or fishing, although I did sometimes enjoy hiking and exploring the world's outdoors. But usually when I did this, it would be by myself and definitely not with family or friends. Well, my 15-year-old brother had one of our cousins over for about a week in the summer of that year. They were the same age, and they did all sorts of things together. Mostly they would spend their time at fishing, something I never found entertaining. One evening, they had been out all day, and came home after dark, announcing that they were going to go out hunting. I had not then, nor now, know what kind of animals you would hunt at night. But my parents didn't really care and always let them go out and do things like this. So they went out hunting and said that they would be back in a few hours. My parents would go to bed early, I knew that. But I also knew about their nightly hunting trips before. The two of them would go out in the woods, probably get high, and then come back to the house after a couple of hours. Normally it would be within a half hour to an hour after our parents went to bed. I doubt they ever really were hunting anything, although I knew that they took their rifles with them into the woods around the house. This day was a bit different, though. They didn't come back within an hour. That hour stretched out to 2 hours. When it finally made it to 3 hours, I began to get a little concerned. Those two would never remain out that late. Concerned, I thought I would go out and check on them. It wasn't the first time I had gone in the woods after them, though never this late at night. So I wasn't afraid of one of them accidentally shooting me or something. I also didn't think they would be out too deep in the woods, but this turned out to be wrong. I kept looking around for them, but was unable to find them anywhere. I had a flashlight, of course, while I was looking, but I still had a hard time finding anyone. I was startled when I heard a gunshot that wasn't very far away from me. Immediately thinking that it was my brother and cousin, I called out to them and let them know it was me. However, there was no answer. I called out yet again, and again. There was no answer. Someone reading this might think this meant that my cousin and brother were bullying me, just trying to scare me. But they never really were like that, so this didn't make sense to me. "Hey guys, it's me. Stop shooting," I yelled anyway. Things were quiet for a few moments. but then suddenly there was another shot, and it struck a tree that was right by me. I tell you, I turned, and I had never ran as quickly before in my entire life as I ran that night. I turned and I ran back toward the house. Fortunately, even in the nighttime, I was familiar enough with the area that I could run home without a problem, so I had no issue running and getting my butt out of the woods as quickly as I could without falling down or anything. While I was running, there was another fire, but I have no idea if it had come anywhere close to hitting me. As long as I wasn't shot, all I wanted was to get home, where it was safe. I got home without any further incident. I was surprised when I got there that both my brother and my cousin were at the house. My dad and mom were up too. "Where the hell were you, man?" my brother asked me. "There's some psychopath out in the woods. He attacked us and stole my rifle. We thought he was going to kill us before he went in and disappeared into the woods." The whole thing was just chilling. I let them know what had happened. We contacted the authorities and let them know what had happened. I hadn't seen the man, so I did not give a description. But after hearing my brother's description, I'm glad I hadn't. The guy sounded really scary. Whoever he wasn't caught, and my brother never got his rifle back. Also, he wasn't allowed to go hunting at night any longer. Number 3, Horse Farm. I'm not really sure if my story is as scary as most of these sort of stories that I've heard, but it sure scared me, so I'm gonna tell it. I worked as a hand on a small horse farm. I won't get into too much detail as to what that entails, as a vast majority involved just feeding, watering, and cleaning up after the horses. I didn't make much money doing this work, but I did get to live in a small trailer on the farm for free, so I was able to spend all of my money on food and entertainment, and I really enjoyed that job. There was one weekend when the farm owners were going to be gone, out of town for 3 days. This had little effect on me since I did all the same work on the weekend, and things would just be normal for me. On the first night when they were gone, I had done all my work for the day, much earlier on, and I had the whole evening to myself. So I was in the trailer, watching television, when I thought that I heard something going on outside. It was only small noises, though, and I didn't pay much attention to them. But after a few moments, it seemed like someone might have been walking around outside the trailer. Before I had a chance to get up and check this out, I suddenly heard this really loud pounding at my door. It startled me so much that I nearly knocked my chair over, and this caused me to be so startled that I didn't get up to answer the door right away. And when I didn't, there was a second round of pounding on the door. A bit unsteady, I got up right when the pounding stopped. I made my way over to the door, but I didn't open it right away. Instead, I went to look out the window on the side of the door. I didn't see anyone at my door. Looking out away from the house, I thought that I saw someone running away, but they had escaped into the darkness so quickly that I wasn't able to know if I had really seen anyone. Concerned, I decided that I needed to check and see what was going on. I then went and I put on my boots and a jacket to go outside. Upon opening the door, the first thing that caught my eye also caused me more fear than I'd ever felt in my life. The main house, where the owners lived, seemed like it was on fire. Not knowing what to do, I just ran out the door into a position where I could see the house better. And when I did, I noticed that there was someone heading toward the horse stables. Fearing for the horses, I grabbed an implement that was outside of my trailer and began running towards the stables. I kept yelling, trying to get the attention of this guy who had first ignored me. As I got closer to the guy, I threw the implement at him. It caught him between the legs and tripped him. Obviously angry, the man turned and came at me. He was carrying a big gas can, and as he quickly came upon me, he hit me with the gas can, knocking me over. Then I think he realized that he needed to get away. I had not been knocked out and was getting back to my feet pretty quickly. The guy ran off, and I was a bit too wonky in the head to immediately go after him. He was able to get to his vehicle and get out of there as quickly as possible. It wasn't until I talked to the police that I realized how odd the story was. If the arsonist was the same person, why had he been pounding on the trailer door before going to set the stables on fire? Well, as it turns out, he hadn't. He had an accomplice who didn't want the horses to get burned, although I guess he didn't seem to have a problem burning the house down. He had pounded on my door and ran back to their getaway truck. He wanted to get my attention to try and stop it. The only reason I found out about this is obviously because the two were caught, and the man who had pounded on my door confessed. The story was actually worse than that, though. He wasn't going to only burn down the house and the stables. The guy was going to burn down my trailer, too, with me in it. Number 4. Late night. Back in the 80s, for about a year, my family lived in a very rural house that sat on top of a hill in a beautiful area. I hated living there during the school year because it was so difficult to get to school. I had to walk to the main road in order to catch the bus, and the whole bus ride from start to finish was nearly an hour and a half long. But during the summer and on weekends, I loved it. Living out there was nice and quiet and just all around pleasant. And on Saturday nights, I always had a really nice time because I would be the only one in the family who would keep awake until after midnight. And when I did, I would always watch Freddy's Nightmares and Tales from the Dark Side. On the night this happened, I was 14 years old, and I was the only one home. My family had gone to visit my aunt for a weekend. I stayed because our dog was ill and couldn't go, so I wanted to be there and take care of her. I had been watching TV all night, which back then was hard because we only had a few channels, and they didn't come in real great that far out in the country. The dog was sleeping on the other end of the couch from me. At some point, I noticed the dog stirring. I thought something was wrong, and I got concerned. She didn't appear like she was gonna get sick, though. She looked like she heard something, and was looking around the room strangely. The living room couch directly faced the hallway where all the bedrooms were. This is where the dog was looking. I kept looking too, but didn't see anything at first. But then, I noticed a black figure walk out of my parents' bedroom and into my bedroom across the hall. Both doors were open. I cannot tell you how scared I was. I thought someone had broken into the house, which was really strange being where we lived. I ran into the kitchen and grabbed a kitchen knife. Then the dog followed me as I kept turning on all the lights, going down the hallway and then to my bedroom. Along with the dog, I checked out everything in the room. No one was in there. The windows were also closed and locked, so no one could have left through the windows. I checked every room of the house. It was the same in every room of the house. Well, the only room I didn't check in was the unfinished basement, but it was locked from the kitchen side of the door, so no one could be down there anyway. I was completely convinced that I had seen a ghost. I never did again, there or anywhere else, but I have nothing else to explain what that could have been. Hey all, Killer Orange Cat here. First, I want to thank all my paid Patreon subscribers, starting with my two VIPs, Chiamerah Cat and Pixie Hopper 8. I also want to thank Stinky News, EricaOdd, Tracy Sellars, Chronic J, and Heidi H. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really liked the last story a lot, even though the supernatural stories aren't really my thing, so I hope you enjoyed that too. And I want to let everyone know that if you want to join my Patreon but can't join as a paid subscriber, you can always join as a free subscriber and I'll be reading your name at the end of every video, so there is that. I should have a new, unique, scary story up on the Patreon within the next couple of days. Paid subscribers will get the recorded video, but I will give the text of the story to everybody. If you like this video, please let me know by hitting the like button. If you're not already subscribed to Killer Orange Cat, please hit the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of new videos. Leave me a comment and share the video with someone you think might enjoy it. If you have an original story you would like narrated on Killer Orange Cat, please email it to the address in the description. And now, I'd like to thank all my free Patreon members: Anthony Bowers, Remi, Venikins, Rose Metro, Woofer McWooferson, Cindy Cleveland, Vanapira Rayne, William H., Alien Unicorn 13, Kathryn Lynch, The Bama Guy 334, Michael Vasquez, Bonnie Lynn, Collet Bond, Krista Pike, Prince UVA, HF Creations, Bonnie Gibbs, Linda Moore, DJ Lira, and the Evil Black Cat. But most importantly, don't forget to make sure to check in your closet and check under your bed, because you never know where a Killer Orange Cat might be hiding. Good night.